3 weeks after my mom's funeral, my biological father showed up to court and said 7 words that changed my life forever. My stepdad was making breakfast when his phone rang. I watched the color drain from his face as he listened, and he hung up without saying goodbye. "What's wrong, Dad?" I asked. I had always called him Dad because he's the only father I've ever known. "Your biological father contacted a lawyer," he said, while staring at the eggs burning on the stove. "He wants to meet you. He says he's finally ready to step up." I hadn't seen the man since I was 2 years old. The only memory I had of him was a photograph my mom kept hidden in a drawer she thought I didn't know about. Dad finally turned to look at me, and he seemed completely different from the man who taught me to ride a bike and stayed up with me every time I was sick. "Can he actually do that?" I asked. His voice cracked when he answered. "Without your mom here, I honestly don't know what rights I have anymore." The court ordered a supervised meeting before the hearing. I sat across from my biological father in a small conference room that smelled like stale coffee and carpet cleaner. A social worker took notes in the corner while he asked me questions that felt like a job interview. What grades did I get in school? Did I play any sports? Did my dad ever yell at me or lose his temper? "Do you have your own bedroom?" he asked without any warmth in his voice. "Does he help you with homework? Does he actually show up to your games?" I answered everything honestly because I didn't know what else to do. When the hour ended, he stood up and shook my hand like I was a business contact instead of his biological child. He didn't hug me or tell me he was sorry for missing my entire life. That night, I found my dad at the kitchen table surrounded by papers at 2 in the morning. He had the phone pressed to his ear, arguing with some lawyer while pulling documents from old filing cabinets. When he saw me standing in the doorway, he tried to pretend he hadn't been crying. "Go back to bed," he said. "I've got this under control." He didn't have anything under control. The day of the hearing arrived too fast. We drove to the courthouse in complete silence because there was nothing left to say that would make either of us feel better. My dad's lawyer met us in the lobby and told us to prepare ourselves since biology carries serious weight in custody disputes. "He has no criminal record," she said. "He's claiming he wants to be involved. That's a hard thing to fight against." We sat on a wooden bench outside the courtroom for what felt like hours, and my dad squeezed my hand and gave me a forced smile. "Whatever happens in there," he whispered, "you are my kid. Some piece of paper doesn't change that." But we both knew a piece of paper was exactly what could change everything. The judge called my biological father to the stand first. I watched him walk up there in his pressed suit and expensive watch, looking like someone who had his entire life figured out, while my dad sat next to me wearing the same tie from my mom's funeral. The judge asked him to state his purpose for being here today, and I braced myself for some rehearsed speech about second chances, about finally wanting to be a real father, about biological rights that would erase everything my dad had done for 15 years. He cleared his throat, looked at me for a long moment, then looked at my dad. "I'm here to terminate my parental rights." The courtroom went dead silent. My dad's lawyer dropped her pen on the floor. The judge asked him to repeat himself. I said I'm here to voluntarily and permanently terminate my parental rights. My biological father kept talking like he hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of the room. 15 years ago, I walked out on a baby who deserved a father, and I spent all that time telling myself I'd come back when I was ready. But I was never going to be ready because I was never supposed to be this kid's parent. Someone else was. He turned and looked directly at my dad. "I watched you panic for weeks over the possibility of losing a child you've raised since he was in diapers. I asked all those questions at our meeting because I needed to make sure you were good enough for my kid. You are. You're better than I ever would have been." The judge asked him to clarify his intentions for the official record. "I want my parental rights permanently terminated so this man can legally adopt my biological child. I'm not a father. I'm just a signature on a birth certificate. He's the real dad. I'm only here to finally leave the right way." My dad was already sobbing when I turned to look at him, clutching a folder full of documents he'd brought to fight for me that he would never need to use.